All right, guys, so I'm obviously up at school in my classroom. This is very particularly another example from systems of equations. That's what I'm planning to do right now up here. So this, if you open up a worksheet, was actually posted at 8:30, which is a little bit of a different time, but I know people sometimes want to work. And so this is problem number 1, and this is problem number 5. It's the first one of each type. So this one said solve by inverse matrix. This one says solve by augmented. Maybe you already tried it. I know a lot of people are saying they're having the most trouble with these. And so I'm going to do them, these two through. Your guys' test is on Friday, so maybe I'll get another chance to do a couple other ones as well. Before then, anytime you have questions, I can't really stop right now and be like, oh yeah, Nehemiah, back in the room, you have a question. Or like, oh yeah, Aaliyah, what's your question? Like, I can't walk around the room and ask you guys those questions. So I'm going to kind of mimic what it would kind of be like if you guys ask questions. I'm going to work through here on the board and remind you of a few things. So over here, this is an inverse, right? I have asked you to solve this one by inverse matrix. So if we're going to solve it by inverse, we need to set it up as my coefficient matrix. Then I write my variable matrix. And now I write my answer matrix. Now, since I believe you can see it off to the side over here on this side of the board, I'm going to do a little bit of work. And hopefully, guys, I'm trying to watch the video to make sure you can see okay and there's no glares and anything like that. Sorry if there happen to be. I am going to write down, well, that one doesn't obviously work. I am going to write down -6, -5, -7, -5. I'm going to rewrite this square matrix right here because a couple things. Number 1, you can only find the determinant of a square matrix. This is a review for the day. And you can only find the inverse of a square matrix. You can also only find the inverse if the matrix has a determinant. If the determinant is 0, we'd have to do something else. So cross down, -6 times -5 gives me +30. All right, +30. Cross up, I get -7 times -5 gives me a +35. But don't forget, when you cross up, you're supposed to write down the opposite. So I'm going to write 30 minus 35, which is kind of a nice answer. It's -5. So here's my inverse matrix, 1 over -5. I could distribute that if I would want. Sorry, checking to make sure you can see that on the video. 1 over -5. Some of you are forgetting this, so please listen up, and I'll do this on a video that shows up later today with our review as well. The flip-flop. These two on this first down diagonal, you're going to switch the spots of them. They keep what sign they have, but you switch the spot of them. So the -5 goes up and becomes where the 6 is. The 6 goes to where the 5 is. The other two that are not on that diagonal, that would be your up cross. You make the sign the opposite. Please keep them in the same spot, but if you see a negative, you write down positive. If you see a positive, you write down a negative. If you see a negative, you write down a positive. So I switched both of those because I originally saw a -5, I now write +5. I originally saw a -7, I now write +7. Now, multiplying comes, order makes a big difference. I have to write the inverse first both times. I am going to kind of shrink down my writing just a little bit. Hopefully on the camera it still looks okay. But I'm writing my inverse matrix first. I'm then going to write my coefficient matrix again. And my variable matrix. Here is the important thing. On the other side of the equal sign, the inverse must be written first. You must write the inverse first. And I am still going to leave my determinant in that fraction out in front. Okay, I am going to leave that out in front and eventually deal with it. But guys, I know I should be getting nice numbers here, even if my numbers are big. All right. I know some of you are like, do we have to do this side? We should probably check this side quick. -5 times -6 is a +30. 5 times -7 is -35, which gives me a -5 in that first spot. -5 times -5, +25. 5 times -5, 25, 0. Guys, You should always check this, and it should go pretty fast because you should always sort of get the identity unless that 1/5 is out front. Since we have 1/5 out front, I should expect 5s here, and because it's negative, they should both be negative. 7 times -6, 6 times 7. Look at that, 1 is positive, 1 is negative, you get 0. This last one I'm going to do a little bit slower to check. 7 times -5 gives me -35. 6 times 5 gives me +30, and so I do get -5 there. But when I would distribute that, I would get -1, 0, 0, 1. And if I would multiply these all together, I would get xy. It does look like I'm going to need to go a little bit over to the side there, so we'll do that in a second. But when I get this, guys, anytime you have this, which is the identity, times xy, I'm going to write my answer up here. You're left with just plain old xy. Okay, so that's where I'm writing the answer right now, just because I'm out of room at the bottom of the board. Let's leave that 1/5 out front. It is negative. I am going to talk about that, and we'll come back to that in just a minute. -5 times 16. Uh-oh, guys, I even need a calculator for that. Don't be afraid if you need to use a calculator. So -5 times 16. My calculator right now is telling me -80. I'm just going to jot that number there real quick. 5 times 17 gives me +85. Actually, I shouldn't have been so worried about that because I get 85 minus 80. 85 is bigger, so right now that's going to be a +5. Bottom row, I have 7 times 16. 7 times 16, they're both positive, 112. 6 times 17 is 102, but that's got to be negative. And so I'm subtracting. That means that answer is 10. Let's see, +10. Good. So we got a +5 and a +10 right now. But guys, that's before I have this 1/5 out in front. That 1/5 is very much like distribution. You're going to take 1/5 times 5. That gives you 1. Excuse me, I'm sorry. The 1/5 was negative, so -1/5 times 5 gives you -1. -1/5 times 10 would give you -2. Sorry guys, as I'm turning around and looking, there's a little bit of the glare of the lights on that, but hopefully you can see that. And because this is a system of equations, I do want to write my answer as an ordered pair. All right? So that is how you do inverse matrix. If you need to hear some of that again, you can always review, rewind, and do this one again and kind of walk along with me where I get those numbers. Because I would like to do this one by augmented and use a little bit of the board, I am going to erase most of this work down here, so give me a second to work on erasing that. And if you guys need to review any of that, also I am available. Please, like right now, if I'm up here on the board and you're like, oh, Miss Jabs, it looks so nice when you write on the board. It makes it seem a lot better and like I'm in class. If you call and we video chat, I'm here at school the rest of the day today. If you call and chat tomorrow, I'll be at school, and so we'll be able to use the board. All right, when we do augmented matrix, we write that dashed line in the middle. And please remember, there's a few rules we get to use. If we need to, we can multiply a row by a number. Multiplying by 0 is never helpful. We can multiply a row and add it to another row. We can add 2 rows together. We can switch things around if I want to. Now, there's a lot of things we could do. Actually, if I look at the bottom row right now, if I would multiply the bottom row by 1/4, they're all divisible by 4. So I believe I would get 1, -1, -2. So since that's pretty easy, I'm going to even write that right here. And you're like, Miss Jabs, that's not what I started with. I did 5. What if we did 5 minus 4? That would be another good suggestion. But I'm just telling you, there are a lot of ways we could do this, and I'm kind of doing this right now to maybe switch up what you thought you wanted to do and give you a different option. But please think about it. Our top first spot is supposed to be a 1. And right now I have my bottom first spot to be a 1. So right now I'm just going to switch my rows. That is a rule you can do. Please make sure you switch the whole row. You can't just switch part of it. You got to switch the entire thing. So I'm going to write my 1, -1, -2 in the top. I'm going to write my 5, 4, 26 in the bottom. Now guys, after we get this one, I'm going to want to work my way down, and I'm going to make this a 0. Because I want 1, 0, and 1, 0. That's the way I want to go. All right, so my goal is to get a 1, 0, 0, 1. And I don't always have to have those be that from the original. So I have this 1 here. I now need to make this a 0. Guys, the way I'm going to make this a 0 is very much like elimination. Like if we were solving systems of equations by elimination. I have the bottom row saying 5x, and the top row says 1x. Would you agree it's going to be pretty easy to take this top row and multiply it by -5? Now, we don't really want to change it, so I'm going to do that work right over here. That's why I erased the board, just to use some more room and be able to write bigger. What is -5 times 1? What is -5 times -1? What is -5 times -2? All right, so those are my numbers. I was doing that to get rid of this 5. This 5 doesn't need to change. If this is a -5 and this is a 5, it would work. So actually, I'm just going to copy this down over here. So I'm going to write 5, 4, 26. Now, if I add these two together, -5 plus 5 would give me 0. And that's what I want in that spot. So 5 plus 4 is 9. And 10 plus 26 is 36. Now, did we just want to temporarily change this 1 to a 5 to help us get there? Yes. So I am going to leave this one as it is. So sorry guys, I'm going to move back over here. My next one is right here. So this was 1, 2, 3. This is matrix 4. I'm going to leave this 1, -1, -2. But now, instead of writing 5, remember I want that 0. So right here I'm going to write 0, 9, 36. So again, let's think about it. I wanted a 1 here. Look at this, I got a 1. I want a 0 here. Got a 0. I would like to get a 1 here. Well, right now it's a 9. When you get to this point, you're just going to multiply this row and this row only by something to make it be 1. Technically, for whatever reason, we don't like to do division when we are doing matrices. So I always like to tell people, look at this and just tell me the reciprocal. The reciprocal is 1/9. So I'm going to take 1/9 of everything. What is 1/9 of 0? What is 1/9 of 9? What is 1/9 of 36? So that was me changing that row. I really didn't want to change this row. So I'm going to do this, and actually, guys, this one ends up being really easy. Over here, I needed to take this 1 and multiply it by 5, so these matched. One was +5, one was -5. Over here, I am now going to have to use this 1 to get rid of this number right here, but it happens to be a +1 and a -1. So actually, off to the side over here, and it's going to be kind of small, possibly even on the video, but I'm just going to rewrite my 2 rows. Because I don't have to change them at all. Sometimes I do. But I don't have to change them at all to make that 1 go away. 1 plus 0. Oh, guys, sorry. I said 0. 1 plus 0 is 1. -1 plus 1, that is 0. Please be careful over here. -4, -2 plus 4, you could read 4 minus 2, is 2. So I'm going to want to replace the top row, because the top row is where I want 1, 0. And so my top row gets rewritten as 1, 0, 2. Remember my bottom row, I really didn't want to change. I was just doing that to help me out. So I'm going to write 0, 1, 4. And since I now have 1, 0, 0, 1, I'm done. Look at this side. Your answer as an ordered pair is 2, 4. So there's another video, you guys, to help you out a little bit with inverse matrix for the first half, augmented matrix for the second half. This is not necessarily the review video for the day. I'm going to call it if you need more help with inverse and augmented matrix. And I'll probably even write about the first 7 minutes was inverse about the second 7 minutes was augmented. I'll kind of try to look to make sure and write that when I have it post. But again, this is number 1 and this is number 2 on a paper that I believe is supposed to be due on test day, which is Friday. Test day is Friday. All right, thank you.